Hey, all you comic book lovers out there, Eric EMoney Seaver is back with you again, and with me every time I film this show, it's the Old Man and Thor, the Dog of Thunder.
He's always here, that's for sure.
Here for his payment of treats.
Oh, yeah.
So,
You want one?
pay the dog.
Dumb question.
There's your payment for this week, right? That's all you need.
Yeah, right.
Alright, kids, so as we all know, superheroes pretty much have the monopoly on comic books.
Indeed.
A lot of great comic book stories out there, but there's also a lot of great non-comic book stories out there. And we're going to be talking about some of our favorites today. In addition, later, we're going to have, well, our usual Thor-related Stump the Old Man question.
I don't know why, but okay.
But then we also have some non-superhero related trivia questions for you.
Okay.
All right, kids, so choose your weapons because you don't have any powers. This is Back Issues. All right, comic lovers, so before we get started today, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, give us a like, turn on your notifications, and leave us a comment. We always love to hear from you guys. All right, so today we are talking about non-superhero comic books, some of our favorites. And we're going to count them down. So how you want to do this, old man?
Well, let's switch it up some instead of going back and forth. Why don't you just do your three, and then I'll do my three.
All right, let's get into it. All right, so my number 3 pick, this one was pretty easy. Most people know it. The Walking Dead, of course. Now, I don't want to spend too much time on this one because, you know, everybody pretty much knows what it is.
Unless they've been in a cave for the last decade.
Right. So just a general overview. It was created by Robert Kirkman, a Kentucky native.
Yep.
And Tony Moore. And it is, you know, zombie apocalypse type stuff. And our hero, Rick Grimes, wakes up in a hospital after having been in a coma for 3 months after he got shot in a altercation. And he wakes up to the horrors of a zombie apocalypse.
The shit has definitely hit the fan.
So he sets out to find his family, his wife and son, in this zombie apocalypse landscape. Now, one thing though, I mean, I know almost everyone who's watching this probably has watched the Walking Dead TV show, but if you only know it from the TV show, I encourage you to read the book because it differs greatly from the TV show.
You're never going to know who's going to die in the comics because there are people in the comics who make it to the end of the storyline who died in the first couple episodes of the TV show, and vice versa.
You think you know, but you don't know. And unlike, like, you know, Game of Thrones, who followed the books pretty closely up to a certain point, this absolutely does not. So highly encourage you check that out if you only know the TV show. All right, so that's my number 3 pick. My number 2 pick, it has gotten a TV show. It had a first season on Netflix. I don't know how successful it was. I think it was pretty popular when it came out.
I liked it.
Yeah. So most people might also know this one. This is Locke Key. And this one is just really a bizarre fantasy tale. It's very unique.
Totally different than anything else out there.
It's a modern fantasy, maybe a little bit of horror story to it. But basically what happens is after the murder of their father, the Locke kids, along with their mother Nina, move into their father's family home, Key House. And you know, it's a big mansion type deal, and it has all kinds of secrets to it. The youngest son starts to discover all these keys that are hidden around the house, and the keys can do all kinds of different bizarre things. One of the first keys he discovers is he has a key that gives you like an out-of-body experience, a non-corporeal form, like what Doctor Strange did. And you know, he opens a door with the key, his body falls to the ground like he's dead, and his spirit or whatever can like zoom around the house, and no one can see him while he's in this spirit form. And then there's another one that lets you go anywhere. You open the key and it lets you go anywhere around the world.
To another door.
Right.
It has to be a door.
Another door. So like the doors in the Matrix second movie. Then you have another key that lets you go inside someone's mind, like their subconscious thoughts. And for if you go inside like a kid's mind, an innocent kid's mind, that could be a lot of fun. If someone has like deep psychological issues, maybe a murder or something, it's not a good place to be.
You don't want to go in here.
Okay, never dreamed of it. But and there's all kinds of different keys that these kids try to uncover. And the youngest one, he's on a mission. He wants to find all the keys.
You need to put a leash on that boy.
Yeah. And but unfortunately, other people know about the keys, and not all of them are human, and they're looking to get those keys for their own nefarious purposes. So it becomes a struggle between the Locke family and those interested parties.
Between the Locke family and pretty much everybody else.
Yep. So there's my number 2 pick, Locke and Key. Now, my number 1 pick, I looked through a couple of non-superhero comic lists online, and I did not find this one on there. So it could be I get a chance to educate a few people out there. And it has not been in movies or television up to this point. So
that could be because of the required budget.
Yeah, it requires a pretty big one. So hopefully I get to introduce this to a few people. My number 1 pick is a story called Birthright. And this one, it plays right up my alley. And it is a story about a young boy, Mikey, who right before his surprise birthday party, wanders off into the woods and disappears.
Should have had a leash on him.
Mm-hmm. And of course, his family, his parents and his older brother look for him, and doesn't turn up anything, no trace of him. It goes on for a year, and his father, Aaron, is accused of his disappearance and possible murder. And the police don't have anything on him, so he was questioned several times, never arrested.
Parents are always a suspect.
Yep, and of course it tears the family apart.
Of course.
Yeah, and a year later, Mikey turns up again, but he's not the same Mikey. He is an adult. He's a full-grown, ginormous man, looking like Conan the Barbarian with a beard. And he says, hi, I'm your Mikey. I'm back. And of course, nobody believes him. Turning up with this,
of course not.
Big muscular guy with all these, swords and weapons all over him, his person. And he says that he's on a mission. He has spent almost his entire life on the fantasy world of Theranos. And he has come back to the real world to, be reunited with his family, but also to carry out a mission because enemies from Theranos have bled over into the real world. So his older brother, who is Brennan,
still a kid.
Yeah. He is the first to believe him, as most kids would do, and he says, I'll do whatever I can to help you, and he kind of becomes his kid sidekick. Of course, the police and FBI don't believe him, and he's like, what have you done with the real Mikey? And they kind of go after him as he escapes and goes off to complete his mission. And this just plays right into my wheelhouse because what kid doesn't dream about going into a fantasy world at some point in their childhood? You see stories like Harry Potter and Chronicles of Narnia. This one obviously more adult oriented because a lot of those kids like me have grown up, so you want to play into your audience who is now much older. So if you haven't heard of it, haven't read it, highly recommend Birthright, the first trade, Homecoming. It is by Joshua Williamson and Andre Bresson. Sorry if I butchered that name. So there's my number 1 pick, Birthright. So over to you.
Okay, so when I saw what EMoney's top 3 were, I realized that it was going to be pretty boring for me to give my top 3 because there was some overlap. So my top 3 is my top 3 excluding his top 3. So number 3 on my list is a sci-fi fantasy story called Saga. I just discovered this recently. It was recommended by one of the guys over at Comic Book World, which, speaking of, we've had some people asking us, what's your favorite LCS, local comic shop? Well, in most cases, EMoney and I frequent Comic Book World on Old Shepherdsville Road in Louisville, Kentucky. We have found they've got a great selection of new comics, really good selection of back issue comics, all kinds of trade paperbacks, which is where I spend a big chunk of my comic book money. They've got a good collection of card games, and they've got a lot of tabletop games as well as role-playing games and miniatures and stuff to paint your miniatures with and all that good stuff. It's a good store, friendly people. Highly recommend if you're in the Louisville area, check them out.
Absolutely.
So anyway, one of the guys over at Comic Book World recommended I check out Saga. So I did. And sci-fi fantasy by Brian K. Vaughan and drawn by Fiona Staples. It's an Image comic. It started coming out in 2012. It's a story, it's kind of a Romeo and Juliet thing. You've got Alana, who's from the home world of Landfall, and then you've got Marco, who's from the homeworld Landfall's moon called Wreath. And these two races, completely different races, have been at war with each other for a long time. So when they get together and have a kid named Hazel, the rest of their worlds aren't real happy about it, and they come after them. So these two are on the run. The personalities that they've developed with these two is really good, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because I think you should read it yourself. I highly recommend it. There's been lots of trade paperbacks, and every once in a while one of these trades came out, it outsold your Walking Dead. So that's my number 3. My number 2 is another example of how teaming up with your buddy EMoney here is costing me a lot of money, because whereas I had all the Sin City comic books over the years, I've sold them all. Now I'm going to have to go back and start gathering up the trades. Thank you very much. But anyway, Sin City's my number 2 pick, created by your buddy, Frank Miller. It's a Dark Horse comic. It's interesting because it uses mostly black and whites with an occasional other color, which not always, but a lot of times it's red, as you can imagine, to create a crime noir setting. It takes place in Basin City, and just the neighborhoods of Basin City, names like the Projects and Old Town, they all have their own people, their own personalities, extremely interesting. The characters, like if you remember Marv, really good stuff. It spawned 2 movies, Sin City in 2005 and Sin City: A Dame to Kill For in 2014. Yeah, I know it wasn't as good as the first one, and it's probably the reason there's not been more movies. But there's 6 or 7 graphic novels out there, of which I'll probably have to buy them all. Oh, my poor wallet. But really good stories, great characters. It's definitely worth your time to check that out. My number 1 pick is Preacher. Now, it was created by Garth Ennis with art by Steve Dillon, a couple of my favorite creators. But I want to warn you, spoiler, if you're easily offended by graphic violence or just religious topics that some people might find somewhat completely blasphemous. You don't want any part of this book. Stay away.
Mm-hmm.
You heard it here. But at any rate, DC Vertigo book. It's about Jesse Custer. Jesse is a preacher in a small Texas town with a small church and with a small congregation. And one day he's up there preaching, and a godlike being, which is formed from the union of an angel and a demon, which in itself is a no-no, joins with him. The joining is so violent that it destroys his little church and kills everybody that's in attendance that day. Now, Jesse, from then on, goes on the hunt to find God, who supposedly disappeared when this event happened. And so he's on a road trip. Was it kind of like the Blues Brothers were on a mission for God?
Okay.
Well, he was searching for God. Really great cast of characters. If you've seen the TV show, there was 4 seasons of an AMC TV show, then you understand that there's a pretty interesting cast of supporting characters. One of my favorites is, what is he, the Saint of Killers? Something like that. Cowboy is chasing after Jesse. There's 9 trade paperbacks. I've read through them at least 2-3 times over the years. But that's my number 1 pick. So, when we announced that we were going to do the topic of this week's show, a couple guys sent us their list. So I figured we'd share those with you because theirs is totally different than ours. Longtime friend of the channel, Jody Hickerson. Jody, I met him in my flea market days. He was one of the first guys that worked for me. And when we started Comics America over in Clarksville, Indiana, he was one of our first employees that we hired. He's all around great guy, still heavy into comic books. And he sent his list. His number 3 was 100 Bullets, which, not read it, but I understand it's a pulp crime noir kind of setting. It was created by Brian Azzarello and Eduardo Rizzo, DC Vertigo title. And I think the premise is this agent approaches people and gives them a gun and 100 untraceable bullets and gives them the means to enact vengeance on someone who's wronged them. There's been 100 issues, which seems right for a book called 100 Bullets. Mm-hmm. 13 trades, of which I don't have none yet. Mm-hmm. This guy. All right, so then Jody's number 2 pick was Ex Machina or Ex Machina. Now, some could argue that this is actually a superhero book. Once again, I've not read this, but it sounds like it's as much political as it is superhero. Michael Hundred is the first and only superhero on the planet. And stuff that he does on 9/11 causes him to be elected mayor of New York City. It's 50 issues with 10 trades. So I'm going to give it a shot.
All right.
Well, you ain't going to pay for it. I am. All right, so in Jody's number 1 pick was Why the Last Man. Now, this sounded extremely interesting. It's a post-apocalyptic science fiction story where all of a sudden everybody on the planet who has a Y chromosome bites the dust, except for Yorick Brown and his monkey. Last 2 males on the planet. A boy and his monkey.
Okay.
I don't know. But it's about him trying to survive and to escape, I guess, all these women that are chasing him. 60 issues and 10 trades, of which I'll at least buy the first one very, very soon. Then our second guy, John Shields, over at our LCS, Comic Book World, who is their back issue expert, which to be on a channel called Back Issues is fitting. Yeah. His number 3 was Why the Last Man, Jody's number 1. His number 1 was one of my picks, Saga. But his number 2 is I didn't know anything about, so I had to actually look this up. It's called Deadly Class. It is about the King's Dominion Academy, which is a school where they train killers and assassins. You know, like the children of mafia guys and stuff like that. It was created by Rick Remender and Wes Craig. It's been an ongoing series since 2014, and as best I can tell, it's still going on. It follows Marcus Lopez Arguello as he finds himself an outcast in this assassin school. It's gone at least 44 issues, and there's been at least 9 trades. Now, I'm going to have to go to Comic Book World and figure out where I'm at on that one. This is all your fault. I can't even read
I'm
this.
not putting a gun to your head.
Yeah, you are. I can't read this many comic books.
All right, so is that it?
That's it.
All right. So a couple of ones I want to mention here, and I didn't put them in my countdown because they were adapted into comic books from books or television or movies, so I don't know if they qualify, but I still enjoyed them. One being the Legend of Drizzt series. It was adopted from the Dungeons and Dragons novels and turned into graphic novels. And because Hollywood won't make them into a movie or TV show, this is...
Wonder why. That's a great story.
Yeah. This is as close as it comes to the characters and the story coming to life in the graphic novel. So I recommend that one. Another one, the Dresden Files stories in comic books. It was originally a movie. It was a very bad television show. Don't recommend it.
Oh, terrible show.
Yeah. But it was also made into a few comic books. A few of them are stories that were adapted from the novels. A lot of them, though, are original stories. So if you do your research, check out a few of those. I enjoy most of them. Another one, Fury by Josh Whedon. It is the story of a Slayer set in the future, like 100 years or so into the future. And
off of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yes. About a Slayer who inherits the ultimate Slayer weapon. I forget the name of it now. It was in the last season of Buffy, and she inherits that weapon. And it's been a few years since I read it, but I do remember definitely enjoying it. So I recommend that one. So there's my list. So what do you guys think? Do you have some favorite non-superhero comic books that we didn't get? I mean, we named a few of them here. We named our favorites, our friends' favorite, a few extras, so I think we covered a lot. But if we missed one, let us know in the comment section. Also, something you guys can write in the comment section. We're running out of ideas for topics for this show. We have a list, and we've gone down most of them, and we're probably going to have to brainstorm here soon and come up with some new ones, and we'd love to hear from you guys.
We've used one reader's suggestion, which was from, once again, our buddy Jody. Mm-hmm. And if you suggest something and we use it, we'll give you a shout out.
Absolutely. So, let us know in the comments if there's a topic out there you guys want to talk about. All right, so that does it for this segment. So let's head outside. I'm sure Thor's hungry, and
he's always hungry.
Is eager for some trivia knowledge, right?
Oh God.
All right, comic lovers, it's time for our favorite segment, Stump the Old Man.
Whose favorite?
It's my favorite. I like coming up with the
Probably
questions.
your favorite too.
Because you get more treats, don't you? All right, so I have our regular Thor theme question. Question number 2 as usual.
Of course.
Now I have some non-superhero related questions as well.
Good.
All right. So question number 1. In The Walking Dead, before the apocalypse, what did Eugene Porter do for a living?
Well, I know that everything he said at the beginning was all made up bullcrap. But if I remember right, he was a teacher, like a high school teacher.
I will accept that.
Good, because it's right.
He was a high school science teacher, a fact which he kept from Abraham in order to secure his protection. because he told him he was a scientist for the CDC, something like that.
I don't blame him.
Yeah.
That apocalypse, you do what you got to do.
Mm-hmm. All right, so that's 1 point to the old man. Now for our Thor-related question here. Complete the lyrics to the Mighty Thor cartoon theme song from 1966. What? Across the Rainbow Bridge of Asgard, where what?
Where the Mighty Thor dropped his hammer on the dog's head.
No.
I don't know. I didn't even know there was a song.
Across the Rainbow Bridge of Asgard, where the mighty heavens roar, you'll behold in breathless wonder the god of thunder, mighty Thor.
Don't y'all worry, he has to keep his day job. Jeez.
That's your theme song there, buddy.
This theme song is nom 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 nom.
All right, so that is 1 for 2. All right, on to our third and final question today. Name the town in which Key House is located in Locke Key.
Well, it seems like it was something different in the TV show, but in the comics, it was a tribute to H.P. Lovecraft, so it was called Lovecraft.
That is correct.
Oh, good. I was afraid you wouldn't give it to me because I don't know the name in the Netflix show.
No, we're talking comic books, so the town of Lovecraft, named after Arthur H.P. Lovecraft. In the Netflix series, the town was renamed Matheson, Massachusetts, for whatever reason. I personally would have liked Lovecraft, but that is correct. So 2 out of 3 this week. The old man wins it.
Of course. Stupid Thor question.
All right, comic lovers, that about does it for this episode. But before we go, let's talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing next week.
Always my favorite thing to talk about.
Yep. So we are going to be getting into some of the biggest tragedies of comic books. Now, we've, barely got into this subject yet. We don't know exactly what we're going to be doing. Is it going to be tragic events, tragic stories, tragic characters? We don't quite know yet, but so it's going to be tragedies in comic books.
It'll be tragic.
Yeah. All right, kids. We'll see you next week. Excelsior.
True believers, take care of your pets.